Okay, guys, I just want to clarify the criteria for resubmitting this Hazlitt essay. Now, it's not a question, as you've been used to in the past, of taking the corrections that I've made, correcting the odd word, correcting the odd phrase, resubmitting it, and hoping that your grade will go up a little bit. That's not what it's about. Take the essay that you've written and you're going to resubmit it. I'm going to read it as if it's a new essay. I'm not going to compare the two. I'm going to read it as an AP reader would. I'm going to give it maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to read it real fast, and it's got to be clear. And I'm going to look at what kind of rhetorical devices you've been able to put into it. And I'm going to go through now what rhetorical devices you need in there. So please, please, please don't think that you can just change the odd word and resubmit it and your grade will necessarily go up. It isn't necessarily so. It might well go down, because I'm grading by different criteria. All right. So these are the criteria. If, for instance, you look at C there, what we're after is if you want to get a C, you have to make sure that you've shown to me that you've made a real attempt to answer the prompt, to address the prompt, not just to write an essay, but to address the prompt. Look also at the fact that that a C essay, most people in the country, most people in the world on an AP essay will get a C. That's the notion, right? That's the biggest range there. So these are the things that you need in order to get that. It may well be the thesis may well be weak. Some of the support may well be weak, but nevertheless, it's there. If it isn't there, then you're going to drop down into a D there. You're writing an adequate essay. In the C section, some of the support may be badly selected, but it's there. In the C section, in the C range of grades, the overall writing style will lack sophistication. Now, sophistication isn't the overblown writing style that we've been studying with Hazlitt. It's not that at all. Sophistication is like we looked at Dylan Hazlitt's essay, remember, where he deliberately manipulated language in order to get the effect that he wanted to get. So we're looking at that. A C may well have overblown or inaccurate diction. It may have that, and that's acceptable within a C, as will grammatical flaws. That's acceptable within a C grade. If you want to get above a C grade, you have to eliminate those negative points. You have to eliminate those flaws and improve on what a C grade would expect. So if we look up at a B look, which is adequate, they're convincing. I want to be convinced by it. When I read it in a relatively short read, I want to be convinced by the argument that you're making. Now, the argument may not be as developed as the higher grades. It may not be as developed, but nevertheless, it's there and it's adequate. You may have a flawed thesis. It's difficult to get a perfect thesis. The thesis may be flawed, but nevertheless, you do address that thesis. Transitions really matter. Make sure that you've got some effective transitions from one paragraph to another and from one idea to another. It'll be well organized for the most part. For example, you want your main point at the end in your final body paragraph. There may be some serious flaws. We still accept that in a B range. There may be some serious flaws in the organization, and that can be tolerable. There may well be logical fallacies within the essay, things that don't quite make sense. There may well be some of those. Not a lot, but there may well be some. That's to get into the B range. If you want to get up to an A, which is an effective essay, you've got to be real clear about everything. It clearly identifies a claim, clearly states a thesis, and supports the claim and the thesis with an effective argument with no logical fallacies. It's convincing. You've got a convincing argument, and it's well organized. One thing flows out from another. The transitions are effective. There are no logical fallacies. The prose is well controlled. It may not be flawless. If you think about Dylan's preamble, Dylan's prologue to his speech that we studied in class, it wasn't flawless, but nevertheless it was well controlled. You could tell that he decided to introduce parallel structure, to use exemplification, to use all those different devices that he used, to use personification, and to tie it all together with that idea of we have not failed, we have succeeded. All right. So that's what you need to do in order to get a C, a B, or an A. Now, if you don't have even those in it, you're going to drop down into the inadequate. So if you don't, for instance, have a thesis, you're going to drop down. If you haven't addressed the prompt, you're going to drop down into a D. if the essay seems to lack direction, it's going to drop down. It's generally speaking, it's the word they use here is a good one, is lackluster feel. You know, it's obviously that you've not really tried. I won't expect that from anybody. So I'm going to start with the C, looking at everybody as if it's a C, and then if you've added some of these other things, then you can increase your grade into the B range or the A range. But please do not think it's just a question of correcting, making some small corrections and resubmitting it, and that it will necessarily get a higher grade. It won't necessarily. Now, I don't mind if you don't do anything to it. You can resubmit it as it is if you wish, but you must accept that I will be grading it according to this grading scale here. All right? Okay.